Welcome to another episode of Heart of the Dragon. I'm sorry, I know my hair looks a little bit messy, but that's okay. So I guess I decided to film this about a girl who has been creeping up on the internet and has been making big changes, if you will. Like, she's one of those people who are like fighting for what they believe in, but she's not your average teenager who does this stuff. Her name is Greta Thunberg. I believe she's from Sweden. She is becoming an activist for climate change, and what makes her special is she has autism. Her classification is more Asperger's, but Asperger's is not a diagnosis that gets commonly used anymore. So it would be commonly said that she has a form of autism. So I've never really been one that was that much interested in climate control. I have my own issues I'm interested in, but part of me is like, kudos to her for fighting for what she believed in. But I didn't pay much attention to her story until now. So you guys are sitting on my computer, so if I'm like looking away from the screen, I'm looking at the article, just so you know. The title reads, Greta Thunberg is not an ordinary 16-year-old and it scares her bullies senseless. She's freakish. Well, that's a lovely way to start an article. Yikes. So she's freakish. She's deeply disturbed. She's a schoolgirl puppet with many mental disorders. These are not kind words to fling at a child, but they are just some of the things that 16-year-old Greta Thunberg has been called in the last few months, not least by Australian columnist Andrew Bolt. Well, that's a nice way to start an article. I mean, like I said before, she's a 16-year-old and she's getting called names by an adult man across the world. That's not very nice, but I guess we'll see what's going on with that. Why would grown men insult a school student who doesn't yet have the right to cast a vote? I'm kind of wondering the same thing. Because she's one of the most influential people in the world and she scares them silly. If you aren't familiar with Greta's name, it's likely you've seen the Swedish teenager's face. In recent weeks, you would have seen her in a windbreaker and waterproofs pulling ropes at the helm of a transatlantic yacht. No, it's not the kind of yacht Miley Cyrus has been spending the northern summer on. There are no waitstaff or a ship-to-shore tender to ferry you out to the club, nor a bottomless fruit platter or an Insta-worthy sun-baking deck. Okay? No, Greta's yacht is a small racing boat with a tiny professional crew, full-bore sickness, and the facilities for sleeping in shifts. And Greta was on it because it was the only form of transport that she could use to get from Europe to New York that didn't burn copious amounts of fossil fuel. Interesting. I didn't know that. When you are the environmental spokesperson for a generation, that matters. Okay. There is nothing ordinary about Greta Thunberg. Not the story about how, as an 8-year-old, she became so depressed about the state of the planet that she stopped eating or talking. Oh. Well, she takes it pretty seriously, doesn't she? Nor about how activism pulled her out of that state, starting, as she did, a new global environment movement at 15. Back in Sweden, she decided one day that refusing to go to school on Fridays might be a good way to get a bit of attention for a cause she was passionate about. Okay, I'm might argue with your execution, but I suppose it's your reasoning that matters. I don't know how else to word that. Now, every Friday, somewhere in the world from Uganda to Sydney to Seoul, there's a climate strike with school and union students staying away from the classroom to go and lobby outside their local parliaments for action on global warming. Interesting. It's not easy being Greta or Greta's family. She convinced them to go vegan because eating plants is better for the environment. Then she lobbied them to stop flying, effectively ending her mother's career as an international opera singer. Holy, okay. Well, I must say her mother is... She shares her daughter's passions. I mean, that takes a lot of love to end your singing career for your daughter. Let's see. A young Greta chose not to speak for years at a time until she found something she really wanted to use her voice for, changing the world. I don't care about being popular, she famously said as a 15-year-old addressing the United Nations Climate Change Summit in Poland. I care about climate justice and the living planet. Our civilization is being sacrificed for the opportunity of a very small number of people to continue to make a large amount of money. Well, I definitely see her point there. It gets kind of sad sometimes how far we're going to go for money. But saying things like that pisses a lot of people off. Well, yes, that's very true. Our own Andrew Bolt is only one of the climate science deniers who suggests that admiration for Greta is misplaced because she is a young girl with many mental disorders. Okay. Have you ever heard of inspiration porn? Whatever. For those of you who don't know, inspiration porn is the people who write these glowing articles about people with disabilities, I guess, to make themselves look good. But, anyway, that's not all people, though. I understand a lot of people, they'll follow these people because they're inspirational. And I'd say, if you're a 15-year-old addressing the United Nations Climate Change Summit, that's pretty impressive. Green extremists are hiding behind these children, Bolt said on Sky News on Friday night, weeks after being condemned around the world for his previous comments about her. They want children to state their cause so that adults feel embarrassed or reluctant or ashamed to say they're wrong. Well, sometimes that's true, but does that mean we have to rip into some 16-year-old girl you don't even know across the planet? That's weird. And with Thunberg, they get double protection, Bolt went on. Because she suffers from all sorts of mental problems. Depression, they say. Anxiety, they say. Selective mutism, they say. I haven't seen much evidence on that. Autism, Asperger's. Conditions that Thunberg says she believes help her see more clearly. I believe these disabilities do not make her see better, but make her see things in a dangerously black and white view. Seriously? I mean, are you saying that just because she has autism and other mental conditions that she's not capable of changing the world? And I must say, by making statements like that, you're being pretty black and white, sir. I mean, yeah, it's true that people with autism are always getting ripped on because of our black and white perspectives. But seriously? I mean, I feel like statements like that are even more black and white than we even get. Seriously? Wow. All right. Bolt is alighting in quite the grotesque way on another reason Greta Thunberg is not ordinary. She is neurodiverse. The teenager self-identifies as having Asperger syndrome, which in 2013 was folded under the umbrella of Autism Spectrum disorder. Okay? And when Greta wrote about the criticism she gets for being different this week, she spoke for many who came to realize, often much, much later in life than she, that it can be the very things that make you different that make you anything at all. I agree. You know, just because you're different, that's not a disability, you know? Like, I agree with that statement. So, here's what she wrote about it. When haters go let me start that over. When haters go after your looks and differences, it means they have nowhere left to go. And then you know you're winning. I like that perspective. I have Asperger's syndrome, and that means I'm sometimes a bit different from the norm. And given the right circumstances, being different is a superpower. Yeah, I like to think I have a superpower. But, I don't know, not like literally. I'm not public about my diagnosis to hide behind it, but because I know many ignorant people still see it as an illness or something negative. Unfortunately, that is true. And believe me, my diagnosis has limited me before. Before I started striking, I had no energy, no friends, and I didn't speak to anyone. I can relate. I just sat alone at home with an eating disorder. All of that is gone now since I have found a meaning in a world that sometimes seems meaningless to so many people. Yeah. I can relate to that. I was kind of like that shy, insecure person who really didn't talk to anyone before I discovered my love for music and band instrument repair. And that really helped me come out of my shell and helped me realize who I really am, per se. I don't know. Perhaps, as Bolt says, there is a cult growing around Thunberg and her crew of school striking climate change activists. Lead it to some ignorant person who blasts someone for having autism to call it a cult. Goodness gracious. But maybe her influence and popularity is actually a symptom of the learned helplessness we're experiencing daily, splashing around in our hyper-crowded news cycle in a climate of fear and division. Thunberg's is a clear and confident voice backed by a striking science calling us all out to be better. The year 2078, I will celebrate my 75th birthday, she told the UN in that pivotal 2018 speech. Maybe if I have children, they will spend that day with me. Maybe they will ask me about you. Maybe they will ask me why you didn't do anything and when there was still time to act. You say you love your children above all else, and yet you are stealing their future in front of their very eyes. Tough words, Greta. No wonder you're scaring the dinosaurs silly. Yeah. I'm sure she's going to get backlash for that, but one part of having autism is you're not one to sugarcoat things. You're not one to dance around things. You're not one to put hidden meanings into things. Well, not all of us are. I'm a very metaphorical person, but a lot of us are very straightforward and to the point. We tend to be very honest, and we don't tend to care about feelings. You got to hear the truth. Sometimes that gets us to a fault, but sometimes we need to hear that stuff. So I find it kind of disheartening that someone would say such things about some 16-year-old girl he doesn't know, you know? But I think she's got a good cause, and I think she'll go far. I'm proud of her for speaking out and for doing what she aims to do in spite of her disability. I'm proud of her for that as well. So, I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw today, please be sure to give us a big thumbs up, and then please be sure to hit the subscribe button. Also, be sure to hit the bell to make sure that you receive notifications on all of our future videos. We are on social media, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the username Joyful Mama. Otherwise, we will also put links for that in the description below. We also have a blog, and you can also find that under the username Joyful Mama, or else we'll put that in the description below as well. I'll try to see if I can get this article linked in the description below, as well as information about Greta Thunberg. But yeah, I'll try to see if I can do that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.